passes. We will now individually consider agenda item M, which is authorization towards bid number 2015-05, Los Baños Welding Equipment Project. So the appropriate way to do this would be to have a motion, a second, and then a discussion. Is there someone on the board willing to make a motion on this item for purposes of discussion?
I move that we accept the item, move to approve the bid.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
So we are approving.
You're just seconding a motion so we can discuss it.
Okay, second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Ochoa. We have a second by Trustee Gutierrez. So this time, discussion by the board. Trustee Ochoa, do you have a question?
So my intent by pulling this item out of the consent agenda is to get some clarification as to why it was not brought forth as an item for board discussion and/or action.
President Kelly?
You mean as a separate action item?
As a separate action item, correct. I voted in favor of the motion to approve it because I do understand the need, and I'm excited about this program at the Los Baños campus. But it just seemed to me that it would have been more appropriate to have it as a board discussion and action item.
We've done it both ways. It's according to how you guys want to do it. We can work with the board president on that. You always have the opportunity to pull an agenda item if you have a concern, but if it's pretty straightforward, and then this one grant funded to open up the welding lab in Los Baños, we typically put on the consent agenda item, but we've done it both ways. Yep.
And so is this something that caught your attention because of the size of the dollar amount or the significance of the project?
Primarily the dollar amount of the project, and I thank you for clarifying that, President Vitale.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some options, and so maybe, is there any further discussion? So maybe we can look at the board policy as far as how we designate things. Is there any further discussion by anyone on the board? No? Any discussion by any members of the public? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote? Aye. Okay. Okay, so motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to now discussion and/or action items. Number 10A, appointment of Assistant Superintendent Vice President of Instruction. President Kelly.
Yes, it's my pleasure to recommend tonight the appointment of Kelly Fowler as the Assistant Superintendent Vice President of Instruction. Very pleased to recommend Kelly for this position. She's actually here tonight on the front row. You're welcome to wave as well. It seems to be what we do around here tonight is we wave. Kelly is currently the Vice President of Instruction and Student Services at Clovis College. She's been the Accreditation Liaison Officer there for several years. In fact, was very instrumental in making sure that the Clovis Center moved to college status. She's currently the president of the California Community College's Chief Instructional Officers Group, and she's been instrumental in moving several instructional and student services initiatives along at Clovis College. I know they're going to miss her, but I am pleased to recommend her tonight, and I recommend the board approve the appointment of Kelly Fowler. And this is, I say this publicly every time because it's always awkward. We can thank the City of Bell. By law, we have to announce this publicly and verbally. But it's recommended that we appoint Kelly Fowler for Assistant Superintendent Vice President of Instruction at range VP, Step 9, at $201,275 with the start date of July 2nd, 2018.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And let's see.
I move that we do this appointment.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Jordan. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, so a second by trustee Upton. Is there any discussion on this item by the guys? Seeing none, I'll ask for, is there any comments from the public on this motion? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to you, Ms. Fowler, President Pellis. It looks like you have a new team. Dr. Allison, thank you very much. So with that, we will move on to agenda item B, resolution in opposition of the California Community Online College. President Pellis?
Yes, at the last board meeting, you appointed a small group to take a look at this. I worked with trustee Ochoa and trustee Ramirez, and this one is a resolution in opposition to the online college that your subcommittee is proposing. And I won't read it out loud, but I think you all had a chance to review.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I shall move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, we have a motion by trustee Ochoa, second by trustee Upton. Any discussion on this item by the board? No? Any discussion on this item from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item C, resolution regarding proposed new funding formula for the California Community College System. Skip President Vitale and say this is also a resolution that trustee Ochoa and I certainly got to help shape it. At this time, I would be looking for a motion on this item. Is there a motion? Okay, we have a motion by trustee Lashbrook and a second by trustee Gutierrez. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll see if there's any comments from the public. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Now on to agenda item D, resolutions honoring staff who have or will be retiring. President Vitale?
Yes, we have several staff who've been with us for many years at Merced College, and we are thrilled to celebrate with them, even though we're sad to see them go. But we wish them the best in retirement, and it's recommended that you approve these resolutions and certificates of appreciation, and also join us. We ask that you join us next Wednesday for the retiree reception.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on this item?
I would move.
Okay, thank you, trustee
Second.
Jordan, and second by trustee Ochoa. Is there any discussion from the board on this item?
Where is the reception going to take place?
It's actually in 2 weeks, on May 23rd, and it's in your packet. You have it at your desk, so there's a flyer.
Trying to send us on the wrong day, President Vitale?
Never hurts to be early.
That's true.
It can.
So again, I agree with you. Okay, so is there any discussion by anyone from the public? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item E, CSEA Week Resolution. President Kelly.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to recognize the classified professionals and recommend this resolution. Tonight you recognized our adjunct, our part-time faculty who are very much so a backbone of what we do, and so are our classified professionals. We cannot do what we do in this district without their support and their contributions. And so tonight I recommend that you approve Resolution 1812 declaring the week of May 20th through the 26th, 2018 Classified School Employee Week.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on this item?
I so move.
Okay, so we have a motion by Trustee Ochoa and a second by, Trustee Upton. Is there any discussion on this item? You're right, support is very important here. So I will see if there's any comments from the public. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the suspense was worth it. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item F, financial aid reorganization. President Kelly.
Yeah, I recommend that we approve the financial aid reorganization. It's a very minor reorg. We've had some vacancies created. Director Vale, who's also our management team president next year, is the director of financial aid, which I hope she knows that much. Yes, she has been in her role for for a little while now, and with the vacancies is proposing a minor reorg. Dr. McCandless has worked with her on this. He supports this reorg, and this has also been vetted through CSEA, and they have approved it. So it's my recommendation that you approve this reorg of financial aid.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion from the board?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Trustee Jordan. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Trustee Gutierrez. Any discussion from anyone at the dais? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item G, student trustee member rights. This is only adding a few privileges to the
Actually, this is in the provision of Board Policy 2015. It basically says each May you have to decide what privileges you provide to your student trustee. Currently, there are 5 privileges that are in your board policy, but you do not grant all these privileges currently. You grant the bottom 3 in the bullet list, but by May 15th of each year, you should be voting on which ones. So you have the right to pick and choose among these 5, but currently you're doing the bullets 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, so in order to discuss this, we have to have a motion. Is there anyone willing to make a motion on this item? So we can't discuss it right now, so I just need a motion in order to discuss it.
take action to comply with 18.15.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee Upton.
Sorry.
Lashbrook,
Second?
and second by trustee Gutierrez. At this time, it's open for discussion. Trustee Upton?
I thought we had allowed them to come to closed sessions, except where state is there, they came to closed sessions before.
You have before, but you have not complied with this provision the last couple of years. So each year you make a decision what the next year is going to look like. And so regardless of what you've done previous years, you may have done all 5 in previous years, but this past year you've only allowed the bottom 3. To be clear, for the second bullet, we haven't had any closed sessions that didn't discuss personnel or collective bargaining matters, so that hasn't been an option. You currently do not have your trustee make or second motions, your student trustee. And I would, as a point of clarification, say that you have a motion on the table that doesn't provide much clarity for us as far as which direction you're headed. So I don't know if the motion is to allow all 5 of those privileges, or it's to continue with what you've done in the past, and that's the numbers 3, 4, and 5.
I don't remember voting on just 3, 4, and 5. It was just kind of do you remember? So if we were supposed to, I don't think we were, and so I think it's good that we look at this. And what about the only thing that our student trustee would be able to go into closed session would be property matters then?
Yeah.
There's a few things that we can talk about.
There's a few other things, but maybe that.
I see no reason why our student trustee couldn't come in for that. Again, it's kind of a learning educational experience along with everything else. And then the privilege, we did turn it around a couple of years ago to make sure that at least the trustee got the first vote, thinking at least that's a little bit of influence on the rest of us possibly, but that's kind of late. So I think it would be great to allow the student trustee to make and second a motion. I don't know why we don't.
So is your motion to allow all 5?
All 5, yes.
Okay.
I have a question about that.
Sometimes when we have a difference of opinion, the only group that can bring it back up is those that voted for it. And in a situation like that, where would we be if they were allowed to make a or second motion?
I think you're referring to the motion to reconsider,
Yes.
and that has to be someone on the
That's different.
prevailing side, right? So it would, if that is the case, that's different, because even though the student trustee would be making and seconding motions, their vote would still be an advisory vote, so that wouldn't impact the motion to reconsider.
But it would allow it to be brought back before the board if that person were to bring it up.
No, it would not, because it's an advisory vote. The person who makes or seconds the motion isn't necessarily one that can always bring it up to be reconsidered. Typically, they're on the prevailing side, but I guess they can be persuaded to vote against their own motion during discussion.
The only time I can see them bringing it up for a motion being a problem or having a different outcome is if the boards change radically. You know, the people that have voted in the prevailing way, there aren't as many on the board. So that's politics. But I just can't see it being a major issue compared to voting things up myself.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes, please.
I have 2 comments. The first being the privilege to cast an advisory vote, although the vote shall not be included in determining the vote required to carry any measure before the board. In my interpretation, if the student trustee is casting an advisory vote, is then it not the opinion of the board that the student trustee serves solely as an advisory member? Because if I'm able to make and second motions, and I'm able to attend closed sessions and represent students on all of these matters, am I only in an advisory position? Not me, myself personally, obviously, the student trustee. Second, I do think that, oh, sorry.
Do you want to answer that one, or just your second question?
I'll just
Okay.
give it all
Go
at
ahead.
once. The second point that I would like to make is I highly appreciate the privilege to make and second motions. I know this time I can second, but I'm not allowed to make the motion. Oftentimes, the board kind of have the tendency to sit around and wait for someone to make the motion. And I think giving the student trustee the privilege to also engage in this and take the initiative to move forward on the matter is highly beneficial to the students. So I really do appreciate the first and second additions.
President Kelly, can you address the first part of Trustee Gill's?
Yeah, those are all outlined in education code. The state of California doesn't allow for a student trustee to provide other than an advisory. So that would be something that would have to go through California legislation to change. This board does not have the power to. It is in education code 72022 on the organization of boards, and it outlines what non-voting student members appointed to the board have the allowance to do under regular meetings. And so it classifies the student member as a non-voting member. So what this board does is allows the student to provide the advisory vote so they can know where the student stands, but education code and law doesn't allow you to be more than a non-voting member of the board. That doesn't mean that it's not a valuable member of the board, because the student voice is very important, but it is still a non-voting member. And regarding the ability to make and second motions, you know, this state is under the Brown Act. There really are no surprises when it comes to a board agenda. So to me, it is perfectly appropriate to allow anyone sitting up here to make a motion, because there will never be a motion on your agenda that you're not aware of anyway. The only time it could hurt you is if you don't want to consider something and you want something to fail for a lack of a second or lack of a motion, and the student trustee would like for it to be discussed, but that isn't necessarily a negative thing. That just means they would have the power to make sure it actually made it onto the table for discussion.
Of course, how would we all know that we wanted to feel? If we were doing it.
Silence.
Okay.
It would be silence.
I know that, but I understand.
So
It'd
on
be
the,
very rare.
on the one is with the second bullet, would the student trustee be at the beginning of in closed session, and then we have to excuse them once we get to the personnel and collective bargaining matters? Or do we do that first and then bring them in after we're done with that?
It would be something the board president I would organize, and I would note that this would always be at the discretion of the governing board. I mean, you always have the right, even throughout the year, to say this is not, you know, if you, for example, if you have a very sensitive security issue and you feel like it's if it's best to not have the student trustee in there, education code is very clear that it's discretion of the governing board, even if the student member is allowed to attend closed session. But basically, it would mean that if there were personnel matters and matters related to negotiations, that the student trustee would not attend at all. But if we were talking about land acquisition, we were talking about campus safety or security, and at the discretion of the board, the student trustee would in fact be invited to come in, and we would just do that the front end of closed session, and then the student trustee would dismiss his or herself, and we would finish closed session accordingly.
And I have a question, this is a legal question. Is the student trustee then also bound by the same stringent closed session rules that elected members are, and subject to the same sanctions for violations? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Trustee Gill seems to know that.
Kick her out of school. I know this is an addendum to this, but I have trouble that we don't offer our student trustee the dinner every time. Yeah. It just seems like come in, grab something, we don't have anything on the agenda, leave. But you know, we're here for usually 4 or 5 hours, so it kind of makes sense we have dinner within the time. But
Okay, and so is there any further discussion on this item? Okay, sounds like no. Trustee Gutierrez, you were the second on this motion, and so I want to make sure that you understood that Trustee Upton's, gosh, I keep saying that, Trustee Lashbrook's motion was to approve all 5 bullet points. Was that the intent of your second as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on this item? No? Any discussion by members? Oh, yes?
I have never been making a motion or seconding it, that it meant you even approved it personally.
No.
You have to do that to get it out to where it can be discussed. And there have been motions that I have voted against that I either moved or seconded to get them out for discussion. I think there's a misconcept that just because someone makes the first and the second motion that they are crusading or in agreement with what's going to be discussed.
I think you're right.
But that
Anything
first vote
further?
From the student trustee.
Okay,
I-
go ahead, trustee Ochoa.
Board Chair, I do have a question, and I'd like to, before my vote, I'd like to get a little bit of historical background here in our district. If, in years past, has it always been the bottom three bullet points? Is there any historical background that you could share with us, President Vitale?
No, I really can't, I'm sorry. I do think, I did look at minutes, I do think that 1 year under Ron, you guys extended privilege for them to come to closed session. But I don't know the history, that might be some of your fellow board members, but
They
I'm
only
not the
got
one.
in once because everything else had a personnel matter or
Sure.
something.
They can be used for that.
Okay, all right, anything further from the board?
Do we have to put another bullet and invite the student trustee in for dinner?
Please don't. No, please don't.
Okay, all right, so this time it's, anything further? No, okay, members of the public? Yes, Mr. Camacho?
Thank you, Board. So I'd first like to say that Trustee Jordan is entirely right. According to Robert's Rules of Orders, a motion and a second is just saying I believe the Board should discuss this. It's not necessarily saying you're in favor or against it. Secondly, in terms of history, a few years back, maybe like 4 now, Trustee Janique Johnson, some of you remember her, she was the trustee who did get the board to extend the ability for the student trustee to attend closed session meetings when appropriate. Lastly, I highly recommend that you approve all 5 bullet points as a board. This will really show students that you actually take seriously what we're saying up here, and it is especially helpful when students actually propose things to the board to be able to have our student trustee motion and second on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will now call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to announce that it's a unanimous vote, so thank you very much. And you've done a good job for the students. I think that's reflected in the trust that the board has in student trustees, so thank you. Moving on to agenda item H, district CSEA openers for negotiation. President Vitale?
It's recommended that the board sunshine the articles outlined in your board docs agenda proposed by both CSEA and the district. Those are Article 1, 7, 24, 26, 27, 33, 34, 36. And I've been assured by CSEA that we can get through those quickly. We shall see. So, but it's my recommendation to approve.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Motion by Trustee Jordan, second by Trustee Upton. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion by members of the public? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Gill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Trustee